In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about student finance and how it varies depending on the course and country that you're applying to. Then we'll touch on the all-important grants, bursaries, and most importantly, how to budget. There are lots of ways that you can fund university, but student finance is by far the most popular and the most used one, so one that you should be aware of. Depending on what country you're applying from, you have Student Finance England, Student Finance Wales, Student Finance Northern Ireland, and then Scotland have the Students Award Agency Scotland. So student finance is a government-backed loan system that allows you to apply for help with both your tuition and your living cost whilst you're studying at university. What's important is to first know which student finance scheme you actually belong to. For example, I grew up in England, but actually studied at Cardiff in Wales. So one would think that maybe I should apply to Student Finance Wales, but actually because I grew up and lived in England, that's the one that I belong to and therefore the one I should apply to. So first let's have a look at whether you're eligible for student finance. They want to see a few set of criteria that you meet in order to be able to get a tuition fee loan and a maintenance loan. People who are eligible are either anyone who is a UK national, or they've been granted resident status due to maybe the EU settlement scheme or any other means, say for example if they're a refugee. If you're not a UK citizen and have been living in the UK for 7 years or more if you're under the age of 18, or if you're over 18 and have been living for at least half of your life or 20 years, whichever one comes first, that means that you are eligible for student finance as well. It can actually be quite confusing and very specific if you don't fit neatly into one of those buckets. So if you want to go on the government website for student finance, you can check out exactly what criteria they use and see if you fit there. There are two types of loan that student finance offer. The first one is the tuition fee loan. Now, fees in the UK for universities are £9,250 per year, no matter what course you're on. If you're accepted for this loan, it's paid directly to the university. This is money that you never see and it only goes ahead based on your confirmed attendance on the course. The second is a maintenance loan. Now this is provided to you to take care of all your living costs, so your rent, your travel, all the things that you need to get by in your day-to-day life. And there are two ways that this loan can be allocated. One is means tested and the other is non-means tested. Means tested is simply when they look at your situation and often your parents and see whether you could actually support yourself without any government help. Student finance applications open kind of around the time that you've confirmed your place that you're going to start at university. So there's actually no deadline for when you need to submit your application by, but I would recommend that you do it early, because if you get all your information in and if you're means tested, they might ask for additional stuff like your parents' pay slips or your pay slips if you're supporting yourself, and they will guarantee that you get the money in your account by the first day of you starting your course if you complete everything by the deadline. If you're applying as a graduate, it can get a little more complicated. So I have made a video here which goes into a lot more detail of the nuance that you can have when applying as a graduate. So let's look at the different course lengths. So if you're doing a 1 to 4 year course, it is that standard £9,250 that we said. You won't see the money. Student finance will send it straight to the university as long as you're eligible. Different universities will request it up front all in one go, or usually what they typically do is in 2 halves. But it is your responsibility to do it. Although it is not you paying it, you're getting the money off student finance. If you don't do that, they will send you some angry letters and often suspend you from the course until you've paid your fees if it gets to that point. If you're applying to a longer NHS-backed course such as medicine or dentistry, the NHS will provide you with a bursary to help with your tuition fees in your 5th and 6th year. For that 5th and 6th year, they'll pay your tuition fee in full and not expect it back. As we said, when it comes to help with your living costs, you can always get a maintenance loan. Now, as of 2018, student finance have stopped doing grants or bursaries for your maintenance, but you can always get a means tested loan that you do have to pay back, but can be quite substantial to support you with your living costs. As we said, what you receive will depend on your circumstances and either your or your parents' ability to support you, but on the screen now I will actually show you a table of what the maintenance loan amount can be and how it's means tested and what you can be eligible for depending on your circumstances. Again, in that video that you can watch here, I describe all of that stuff and how to navigate it. And as for maintenance, like we said, if you're doing a 5-year or more course, you will be supported by the NHS Bursary. So they'll pay for your fees, but they'll also give you a non-means tested, so basically everybody gets £1,000 to help them with their maintenance costs. There's also even more bursary available on top of that is means tested, which can be up to a £3,200 increase on the £1,000 that you get for absolutely nothing. So we'll talk about bursaries later and how you can get a bit of additional cash, but for now let's look at how the applications vary depending on what country you're applying from in both the UK and as an EU and non-EU international. So for Welsh students, funding is very similar to English students. The only difference is that your maintenance loan is the same allowance that you get if you're in the 5th year of a medical course, for example, as we talked about earlier. And that means that when you actually do get to your 5th and 6th year, if you're doing medicine, you get even more as a maintenance loan on top of that. So it essentially means that Welsh students are entitled to more as their maintenance loan. If you're a Scottish student and go to England or Wales to study, you will have to self-fund the first 4 years, which typically means £9,000 to £9,250 per year for your tuition fees. However, if you're Scottish and you apply to a Scottish university, you'll only have to pay £1,820 per year for your tuition. On top of that, SAS, the Scottish body, will allow you to apply for a maintenance loan. If you're doing your 5th year and beyond of a course, like say for medicine, you'll be eligible for full tuition fee support and a bursary as well to cover your maintenance costs. Northern Irish students are the ones that seem to get the rawest deal with this, because Student Finance NI will only help with a means-tested loan to help your maintenance costs, but your tuition is fully self-funded. It's also really tricky for internationals. Nowadays, it doesn't matter whether you're EU or non-EU. As of August 2021, it doesn't make a difference, and that means that you have to fully self-fund your fees yourself. These can be anything from £14,000 to £35,000 a year, depending on the university. Now again, we'll talk about bursaries that are available to international students, but it is a massive amount to consider and something you need to weigh up, as it's whether it's an option that's available for you to actually carry out. In the description below, I've put some useful links to give you step-by-step guides for navigating student finance, but I will be making a video on this later in the year, so if you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure that you subscribe and hit notifications and you'll be alerted when that comes out. As you can tell, we're pretty medicine heavy in this video. That's because I have been helping students get into medicine for a long time, and if you want to check out about how I can help you and guide you, we've had a really good success rate with getting students in. So in this video here, I talk about exactly how I can help you with that. So now let's talk about grants and bursaries. As we said earlier in the video, Student Finance no longer allow grants and bursaries, which is essentially free money that you can get and you don't have to pay back. However, if you're applying to a course like medicine, the biggest provider of bursaries is the NHS itself. So the NHS Bursary will allow you to have a certain amount of money that is means tested in your 5th year and beyond. However, if you're a GEM applicant, as I said, we talk about it in depth in the other video, but from the 2nd year onwards, so your 2nd to 4th year, you are allowed some money for free that you don't have to pay back, that is means tested based on your circumstances. However, there are various other grants available to you as well. Things like if you're dyslexic or have a disability, you're able to get money for that and support with that. You can have travel grants, and also if you're a parent or have any dependents, you can get some money to help with that as well. An important thing to note is that NHS bursaries are not given to international applicants. The final option, and probably the most fruitful if you don't fit into a standard conventional application, is to go for some of the privately funded grants that are available. There are literally hundreds of these, and they support anybody from different backgrounds, such as religion, certain countries, certain people applying from a certain walk of life, say for example nurses that want to go into medicine. There is literally a grant for almost everybody. So in the description below, I've linked to a list of all the possible grants that are available out there and bursaries so that you can have a look at the one that applies to you. And the final bit I want to talk about is budgeting. Yes, it's true that people do run out of money as students, and if you're not careful, it can be one of those weeks where while you're waiting for your maintenance loan to come through, you can just be eating one bag of pasta and a bit of sauce that literally lasts you for the entire week. So what we want to do is avoid that situation and get ahead of our budgeting. It's really important to have a real breakdown of what we've got coming in and the likelihood of what we're going to spend on our outgoings. It might sound really boring, but it is so much better to plan this now rather than go through the pain of not knowing where your next meal's coming from because you've run out of money. So have a sit down with your parents, think about how you're going to manage your money. There are some tools again in the description below where I've linked to some really useful things that are going to help you budget. Even if it's silly things like the envelope system, which is where you know how much money you've got for the month, you divide that into weeks, and you essentially have an envelope with cash in, and you only spend that in the week. Once you go beyond that, you know that you don't have any more, and that will make sure that you keep aware of your budget and how much you're spending. Another thing is to make use of the student bank accounts. The student bank accounts are much of a muchness. They're all pretty much the same apart from the odd benefits that they offer you, and really just have a good look. Go on something like Money Saving Expert where they'll compare all of them and just work out which benefit would suit you the most. The main bit of advice for a student, and maybe even when you start your professional career, is to avoid a credit card if you can. can. One analogy of credit cards I've heard that's really on point is that they say it's a bit like a fire. If you can manage it well, you can make it like a nice little campfire that keeps you warm and helps you cook your food. But if it gets out of control and starts a big forest fire, then it's really difficult to manage. The only thing I would say is just that if you're going to get a credit card, make sure that you can be disciplined, manage it well, and just be very, very careful with how much you're spending on it. So that's everything about student finance. If you want to know a little bit more and go a little bit deeper with it, I can give you a step-by-step video that you can go through here. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you in that video.